Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Moonbound Silence. Episode 8. Chapter 36-41. Victor's POV. After getting what seemed like a good night's sleep, I was woken up by one of the guards. I think his name is Owen, and he unchained me. "What's going on?" I asked. "You're being moved to the Pack Hospital," he said to me and helped me to my feet. I thought Jasper and Saren were joking, but I guess they were serious. "So, are you a werewolf too?" I asked him as he assisted me. "We all are," he answered bluntly. I scowled at him and just kept walking. A few minutes later, we arrived at the hospital, which was actually attached to the castle. I never this place even existed. From what I could see from the windows while through the castle, it was surrounded by mountains. I wasn't even sure if we were still in Detroit, but Jasper did ask me if I was from there. I figured I was at least around the area. When I got the hospital, they put me in a room with a window and a TV. Once I was settled, the guard took his post outside of my door. Thankfully, I wasn't chained up though. I guess they trusted me enough to keep me loose, but not enough to keep unsupervised. After a few minutes, an elderly man whom I remember patched me up originally came in with a nurse. A nurse at that. Saren wasn't the only pretty girl in this place. "Mr. Aguilar, my name is Dr. Andrews, how are you feeling today?" the older man asked as the nurse got me hooked up to N4. "I'm sore, and little fatigued, but other than, I think I'm holding up all right. I'm going to check your wounds, and then we're going to take you in for a full-body X-ray." I just nodded. Dr. Andrews helped me sit up, and removed the clothes that I was wearing, pants and all. The nurse seemed to have no issues with staring me half-and taking notes of all my injuries and in what state of healing they were in. "Dr. Andrews, it appears that his right clavicle and scapula are taking longer to heal than the rest of his wounds," the nurse says. "Yes, I can see that, Joy. It appears that one of the higher-level guards bit him." "Bit me?" I asked confused. "Well, you were technically in wolf form, and the only way to kill a wolf is to bite down at the trapezius. However, sometimes a bite towards the clavicle and scapula is a good way to subdue a wolf, before going in for the kill." "Oh," I said, a little terrified. "The higher level the wolf, the stronger the bite," he continued. I just nodded. "Not to worry though, you are healing quite nicely, but it still takes some time before you are at 100%. Based on your height, muscle tone, and overall build, I would have to guess you either played football or you were on the wrestling team." "Yeah, I was a lineman for my college team. How did you?" "My boy, I've been a doctor for many years, and even though I am a werewolf, I still had to go medical school like any other human. I have seen your body type on many young men, and some of these pre-existing injuries on your body were congruent with heavy weight lifting." I just nodded at his attention to detail. "All right, give me about half an hour to get the radiation room ready, and then we can take some X-rays. Nurse Joy will keep you company and monitor your vitals until then." The doctor walked out, leaving me with the nurse. She didn't make any eye contact with me and was just writing stuff down on the clipboard she had in her hands. I looked over, and saw a weird scar on her that looked almost like a tattoo. "I'm sorry, nurse." "Yes," she looked at me. She had really pretty eyes. They were an icy blue. "What's that mark on your neck?" I said, pointing at it. "Oh, this." She put her hands towards it and I just nodded. How do I explain it?" "You see, werewolves have something called mates, soulmates if you will. It's someone that they spend the rest of their life with. Yeah, I remember Jasper and Saren explaining that me. Well, when mates find each other, they do something that's called marking. Essentially, it's like marking one's possession, and a mate is a wolf's possession. Think of it as a brand if you will, like if you were to brand cattle on a farm. Each farmer or rancher has a specific brand that helps find lost cattle. Right. Well, whoever sees this mark on my neck will know that I belong to my mate. It lets them know that I'm taken, happily taken, she smiled. So, does everyone in this pack have mates? Oh goddess no, I would say about only a third of the wolves in our pack have found their mates, or at least, are with their mates. What do you mean by that? Well, there are in some instances that when mates find each other, one will reject the other. Why would they do that, if they're soul mates? Everyone has their reasons, but I would say that majority of the time, the reasons are selfish and unprecedented. Can you give me an example? I know some will reject their mate based on their rank. For example, a higher level wolf may reject a lower level wolf just because they're lower level. Another reason would be cause of persuasion from a third party, or in most extreme cases, one has a lover or mistress they would rather be with than their mate. Does that happen often? No, I don't think so. I would say that about 95% of mates that find each other want to be with each other. We're taught from a very young age that mates are special gifts from the moon goddess, the mother of all werewolves, and that we should cherish those gifts, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Jasper said that humans can be mated to wolves too. Is that true? Yes, and not just humans. Any supernatural can be mated to a wolf. I have heard of vampires being mated wolves, witches, wizards, demons, warlocks, and even fairies. Wait, are you saying all those supernatural and existential creatures actually exist? Yes, they do. They just hide in plain sight. As you know, the supernatural are naturally feared by humans, but there are also some humans that would want us to experiment on us, or hunt us for game and money. So, hunters and traffickers of the supernatural essentially. Precisely, Joy and I chatted a little bit longer, and then the doctor came back in. They both wheeled me to radiology and did a full X-ray, along with more precise X-rays where most of my injuries were. After about 40 minutes, they wheeled me back to my room, where they helped me get dressed in a hospital uniform and hooked me to a couple of other machines. Victor, I'm going to put some morphine and vitamins into your 4, okay? These will help you heal faster, and also help with numbing the pain. We will have someone bring you breakfast shorty, and I'll come back with some ice water for you, Joy said. Thank you, she and Doctor left me alone with my goon squad at the door. I laid back and just relaxed. I thought about my parents and about Gina. I was heartbroken knowing that whoever kidnapped me killed her. To them, she was collateral damage. My poor parents, I was their only child, and they had to bury me, even though I'm right here. I really wanted to go home and tell them that I'm alright, but everything that Jasper said about my not being meant to survive what happened played over and over in my head. I couldn't risk contacting my family. It would put them in danger, and I couldn't live with myself if my selfishness put them in harm's way. About 20 minutes later, another nurse came in with a tray of food. Hello, Victor, my name is Irene. I've been tasked with bringing your meals to you while you're in the ICU. Nice to meet you, Irene. I guess you don't have a mate. What makes you say that? She asked while lifting the lid off the plate and sliding the tabletop over me and helping me sit up. You don't have a mark, I replied, pointing at her neck. Well, it's kind of a complicated situation. I am seeing someone, and technically, we are mates, but we have to keep it hush-hush. Why? It's complicated like I said, but we love each other, and we're both hoping we can mark each other in next the month or so. Why so long? She just gave me a look. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. I'm just trying to understand your species. Well, my personal life has nothing to do with our species. Now eat, she said with a demanding tone, and I just smirked. I looked down at the plate and was surprised to see biscuit with gravy, ham, potato chunks, and scrambled eggs. Irene poured me some water and left me to my meal. Saren's POV. After breakfast, Jasper and Kendrick went to the office and left me the girls with Jason. Michelle joined us. We were all in my office scouring the internet for any other potential missing teens and young adults, and we ended up finding another dozen or so potential matches. This is crazy, how many potential matches is that? I asked. Milan counted. Almost 125. As of right now, the only one we're for sure of is Victor, only because he survived. This is horrible, all these kids are potential kidnap victims and are being turned into artificial rogues, who would do something like this? Michelle said, looking at the files on the table and at the map. Mel, what's the oldest case you found? Jason asked. The oldest case so far is from October of this year. There doesn't appear to be any other articles or missing person reports that match the parameters we're looking for. Wait, what? I looked at her. October what? October 11. Why? That's 8 days after my birthday. Everyone looked at me. That's also 3 days after I came here. When was the first attack? Jason asked. The day after my heat ended, Melody said, which was almost 3 weeks after Saren got here. Victor said he lost 2 weeks of his memory, right? Jason asked me and I nodded. If that time pattern holds up, then that would mean, kids, started being kidnapped right after Saren left Blood Moon. Wait, are you saying that these rogues are after me? I asked, looking at him in shock. Or our pack, Jason replies. I immediately frown and want to start crying. Oh, whoa. Hey. No. Don't cry. I didn't mean anything by that. I'm not saying it's your fault, kiddo. But it is, all of this is started to happen after I came here. I couldn't help the tears that fell from my eyes. Great job, Jason. Melody shouted and h.ugged me. I received a sudden mind link from Jasper. Dearest, what's wrong? What? Saren, I can feel you in pain all the way from the office. Why are you crying? Jasper, the rogue attacks, I think they're happening because of me. What's make you say that? The first potential kidnapping took place 3 days after I came to Blue Lake. And the first rogue attack happened 2.5 or 3 weeks after. Saren, it can all just be a coincidence. But you said it yourself, that only our pack is being attacked. Dearest, I want you to calm down and do not blame yourself. I'm coming home right now, and we will all talk about this as a group, okay? Okay. I love you, dearest. I love you too, Jasper. When our link was severed, the room was looking at me. Were you talking to my brother? I just nodded. What did Jasper say? He said that he could feel me in pain, and wanted to know why I was crying. I told him about everything, and he said he's going to come home right now so we can all talk, I say to everyone, and tears swell my eyes again. Stop crying, they all shouted at me. Saren, this is not your fault. Milan says to me, getting in my face. You are our Luna, we love you, and we do not blame you. Do you understand? The only one to blame is that is doing this to those poor kids in our pack. You could not have predicted this, none of us could have. Okay, I looked at everyone else in the room and they were all giving me smiles of assurance, and even their thoughts were saying the same thing Milan was. I just nodded and sniffled away my tears. About an hour later, Jasper came home and ran into my office. The first thing he did was engulf me in ah.ug. I wrapped my legs around his st and h.ugged his neck for dear life. Saren, this is not your fault, do you hear me? I just nodded my head and rested it against his shoulder. Hey, I heard Jason. Does everyone hear me? This might have to do with Saren, but this is no way her fault. We get that man, none of us blame her, she's blaming herself. We've spent the last hour trying to get her to stop. Dearest, look at me, I left my head up and look him in the eyes. Not your fault, I nodded my head again. Say it, say that this isn't your fault. This isn't my fault, I say softly. Again, but louder. This isn't my fault, I say loud and clear for him. He smiles and gives me a chaste KSS on my LPS and puts me down. No one in this room says anything about the timeline of the kidnappings and the attacks, Michelle, that includes you. Yes, Alpha. I have to keep a secret from Angelo, this bites. I hear Michelle's thoughts, and I feel bad, but I understand why Jasper wants to keep this quiet. It's bad enough that I blame myself, but I know for a fact that others in the pack would too. Knock knock, Lorenzo knocks on the door and comes in. Luna, are you ready for your lesson today? I look at Jasper because I don't want to go. Lorenzo, I think Saren could use the day off. She's not feeling well, Jasper tells him on my behalf. Does this have to do with the artificial rogues? He asks, seeing right through my facade. No one says anything. I see. Well, if that's the case, then allow me to be of assistance. We all look at him in shock. What can you do to help? Kendrick asked. Well, I have been alive for a while, and I know some good witches that may be able to assist with the magic aspect of things. Allow me to make some calls to see if I can get you all any answers, he replies. He bows his head and leaves. I let out a deep sigh and just hang my head. Jasper hugs me tight, knowing that I'm still blaming myself for these attacks and kidnappings. Even though we haven't lost any of our own, all these kids are being taken, and innocents are being killed. I needed to know who or what was behind this and why. Chapter 37. Keaton's POV. Yes, that feels so good, baby. Do you like that? Yes, please, don't stop, I begged. Please, please, oh. What is? She asked innocently. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Either my stamina is rusty, or you're just that amazing, I tell her. Oh baby, your stamina is solid. I mean, we had X for 3 hours the other day, remember? I do remember, I say and brought her to me. We were currently in our hiding place in the woods. The cave we first mated. I love you so much, Irene, you have no idea. I do know because I love you just the same, she said and straddled me. How are you holding up? I'm okay, I guess. I know she was asking because of Tarine. Her possessiveness was getting out of control and it was getting worse with her due date fast approaching. 3.5 weeks left, maybe sooner. I haven't told anyone about my plans to get the paternity test done. I've even stopped caring about the pup ever since I had the feeling it wasn't mine. I know for a fact that Tarine has noticed my change in demeanor, but it doesn't matter. There is no fatherly love, and I'm almost completely disgusted by Tareen. Instead of getting the test done by our pack hospital, I decided to use an outside source. Once the pup is born, I'm going to take the umbilical cord and send it out to my friend's pack on the other side of the mountains in Canada. I trust the doctor there because, well, she's my friend's mom, and has always been like an aunt to me. She knows why I'm asking her to do it. Tareen has friends in our pack hospital, so I couldn't risk anyone finding out that I was going to get a paternity test done. Are you nervous? Yes, and no, I answered while moving her hair and tucking it behind her ear. I needed to KSS her. I pressed my LPS against her. I loved this girl with everything that I had, and I refused to let her go. I didn't care what anyone said. I was not letting go of my mate. Keaton, do we have time? I need you inside of me. Her touch alone made it harden in no time. I looked at my watch, and we had 20 minutes before she needed to get back to the hospital for her shift, and I needed to go back to Tareen 15 minutes, I tell her. I made sure to last the entire now 14 minutes we had with each other. I couldn't stop myself from the amount of love and affection she was showing for me. I couldn't stop myself from making her mine. Mark her. My wolf chase screamed in my mind. Even though she couldn't mark me, there was nothing stopping me from marking her. I love you, Irene. With that said, I shoved her down on my DCK, fully bottoming out. Her head bent back exposing her beautiful neck, and I bit down marking her as mine. I covered her mouth to muffle her screams, and we both came. We came hard. I gave her everything that I had in my balls, and I could feel her insides trembling and contracting. When we both came down from our high, I released my bite and eat it to seal it in place. I looked at it and saw it already taking shape. Perfect, was the only thought that came to my mind. Keaton, you marked me, she said as a matter of fact when she caught her breath. I did, now you can't leave me, and I can't leave you. She looked at me with her beautiful olive eyes and kissed me passionately. I wanted to take her again, but the beeper on my watch went off. We need to go, love, I tell her. She nods her head and gets off of me. I watch as my sem*n leaks out of her. She takes a wipe from her pants and was about to clean herself. Don't, I tell her sternly. Put your clothes on, and just let my seed run its course. Keaton, it's leaking out. Good, I say and tap her as. She scoffs and blushes but does what I say. She wipes the inside of her GHS but leaves her alone. I grab a potion vial from behind the rock in the cave. I had come in wolf form and carried the vial in my mouth to keep it safe. I gave Irene a lingering KSS and then threw the potion down the hatch. She left before me since the potion needed a minute to kick in. I knew that my scent would be all over her, but I didn't care, and I know she didn't either. She says that no one asks whose scent is on her because no one knows that it's me. After a minute, I shift back into my wolf chase and go back to the castle. Tareen's POV. Where is he? I thought to myself. Keaton has been gone for over an hour, and he said that he'd back before then. He was hiding something from me. I knew he was. He would always disappear at odd hours of the day and night and would always be gone for an hour, maybe two, and the other night he was gone for over 3 hours. Whenever I asked where he went, he would tell me it's none of my business. Ugh, I hated him for being such a CK, but I loved him. I loved him more than anything, and I would do whatever it took to keep him. Keaton, I heard someone say his name. I peeked outside of my room and saw him talking to his father. Dad. Son, I've been looking for you, but your block was up. Yeah, sorry. I needed to go for a run. Keaton, are you going to keep using separate rooms? Tareen is due in as little as 3 weeks, maybe less. It's time you moved in together. Dad, I've told you once, I told you a million times, there is no way I'm going to live with her. I told you I would help take care of the pup, but that's all I am doing. I don't love her. I loathe her. She's ruining my life, and you're letting her. I just scoffed at what he was saying. Keaton, you need to stop acting so childish. Childish? She trapped me by lying about being on the pill. She treats everyone like SHT and acts like she's ranked when she's nothing but an omega who can't keep her legs closed. Keaton Neslany. That is not how you speak about women. She's not a woman. She's as leech. She's so asterisking the life out of me. I can't even go a run for more than an hour because she hounds me for it. Well, maybe if you paid her more attention then she wouldn't act that way. I don't want to pay her any attention. I don't want her. I want my mate. Son, I told you, if you find your mate, you have to reject her. And I told you that I refuse to do that. I will never reject my mate when I find her. I'm going to love her, and I'm going to mark her. Whoever she is, or wherever she is, I will love her, and she's going to love me regardless if I have baby mama drama. And what about Tareen? Are you going to keep her around as your mistress? Mistress. You have wires crossed, old man. If I find my mate, and she's willing to, I'm going to petition the elders for custody of my pup, and my mate will raise my child. I couldn't believe what he just said. He would leave me and take my pup with him to be raised by his mate. I don't think so. I hope he does find his mate, because when he does, I'm going to kill her. Keaton. Enough, Dad. Keaton roared, shaking the whole floor. I wonder what Mom would think if she knew you were shaming the mate bond over something as stupid as an accidental pregnancy. He snapped at his dad and walked off. He didn't even bother coming to his room or to check on me. He went back downstairs. I was about to close the door so I could scream in peace, but then I heard the beta. Dad. Ken, Melody, ugh, that asterisk Melody was with them. I couldn't see them, but I could still hear them. Dad, you need to let this go and let him live his life. If you keep pushing him to be with Tareen, he's going to leave. He'd rather be a rogue than be with her. Kendrick, it's the responsible thing to do. No, Dad, it's not. He's being responsible by being there as the father, but he doesn't have to be in a relationship with Tareen to do that. She's not his mate, and Keaton is right. Mom would be pissed if she saw what you were doing. Dylan, Kendrick is right. Lizzie would never allow you to shame the mate bond this way, Melody said. Why was no one on my side? I'm carrying a pup and I'm about to pop, but no one cares. Dad, I also have a feeling that Tareen's pup doesn't belong to Keaton, the beta said. Fear immediately took over my anger. What do you mean? Dad, Tareen is aggressive and mean. She attacks females who even look at Kendrick, and about a month ago, she raised her voice to Saren. She is disrespectful to all the ranked members and disobeys direct commands. At first, we all thought it was hormones, but it's more than that. It's almost as if she's afraid. Afraid of what? Dylan, I'm pregnant, you know this already, and the first thing that people noticed was that my scent changed. That's normal. Exactly, my scent to most people is bitter chocolate, but to Ken, it's sweet and soothing, but after my pregnancy was confirmed, everyone started to tell me I smell like bubblegum. We all know that my scent change is coming from my pup. Yes, everyone knows that. I don't get where this is coming from, or why you are questioning the paternity of the pup. The day of the first rogue attack, right before we had all gone out to go running, Tarine confronted all of us and was her normal disrespectful self. I caught her scent and she smelled like pine cones, which was strange, because I've known her most of my life, and she used to smell like banana, unripe ones, but still. So, I figured that the pine cone scent was coming from her pup. Okay. Dylan, I had asked Keaton what she smelled like when they first met, and he said she smelled like pine cones. OSH, T, OSH, T, OSH, T was all I could think. Dylan, Tarine was pregnant before she ever slept with Keaton. My cover was blown. Melody knew. That is going to ruin everything. Melody, are you sure? Dylan asked. Yes, I am. I asked a few other guys I knew she slept with, and they all said she smelled like bananas when they were with her, but Keaton is the only saying she smelled like pine cones. That means, her scent changed before they were ever together. I couldn't bear to hear any more of this. I closed my door softly, and I screamed at the top of my lungs. Thankfully, the rooms are soundproof. That Melody was meddling in my business, and she was going to ruin everything that I had planned. I needed to put a stop to Melody, but how? I couldn't just LOL her or attack her. I'm due soon, and she's the beta female and the alpha's sister. She's practically touchable. I grabbed my hair in frustration and screamed again. I needed to think, but I knew I would have to wait until my pup was born. Irene's POV. As I made my way back to the PAC hospital, I did my best to cover Keaton's mark on my neck. I wasn't ashamed of it, I just didn't want people to ask who my mate was. Keaton marking me was a surprise, to say the least, but I had no regrets. I was happy he finally made me his. I couldn't wait for the moment that I could do the same. I made my through the back door of the hospital and went to go check on the human, Victor. Knock, knock, I said, opening his door. He was sitting up and watching TV. Oh, hey Irene, what brings you here? I was just coming by to check on you, I said as I walked in. How are you feeling? Better, I can actually move around a little without it hurting too much, and my neck area feels better. Great, let me take a look at the wound to see if we can let it air dry a little. He nodded his head. I removed the bandaging and saw that it was a little oozy looking and decided that I could clean it with some antiseptic. This is going to sting, I tell him. It always does, but go ahead. I cleaned off his wound while he tried to keep his breathing regular. I had to admit, for a human, he was strong. Even male wolves were big pansies when it came to stuff like this. When I was done, I decided to let it air dry for an hour before coming back to bandage it again. It's not infected, but it does need some oxygen to it can heal. I'm going to leave you rest for about an hour, and then I will come back. He nodded without saying, and as I turned to leave, he stopped me. What is that on your neck? Is that a mark? It is, I said softly and not turning to face him. I knew I was blushing beet red. I thought you said you and your mate were having complications. We are, but he marked me anyway, and I'm happy he did, I said truthfully. Wow, I guess a lot can change in a week, hey? Yeah. Well, I hope things work for the best. I'm rooting for you, Irene. Thank you, Victor. I will see you in an hour, I replied and left his hospital room. I decided to just flaunt my new mark. I didn't care. No one knew who my mate was, and they didn't need to know. Throughout the rest of the day, People kept asking and prying into my personal business, but I made sure to just let them know it's none of their concern. I know for a fact that Keaton wouldn't have marked me if he was worried about someone finding out about us. When I went home for the night, my parents were another issue. I knew they were going to ask, and they were going to pry, and they were even going to want to meet him. I made it to the front door, and I stared at it for a minute. I gulped and held my head high as I went in. Luckily, my parents weren't at home. I let out the breath I had no idea I was even holding. I walked into the kitchen to grab a bottle of water, and found a note on the fridge. Irene. Your father and I had to go out of town for a few days. We tried to reach out via MindLink earlier, but you seemed to have a block up and your phone went straight to voicemail. We will be gone for about 5 days. I made sure to stock the fridge with plenty of groceries so you can easily make something to eat for yourself. We love you, sweetheart. Love. Mom. My parents were out of town. Oh my gosh, my parents were out of town for 5 days. This was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I wouldn't have to sneak off to the cave for the next few days, Keaton could just come to me here. I sent him a quick text. Me, babe, my parents are out of town for 5 days. If you want to come over at night, I'll leave my bedroom window open. My love, oh my goddess, you have no idea how happy that makes me, baby. I'll be over tonight. Me, okay. I decided that I was going to surprise Keaton. I was going to finally wear the lingerie that I bought when we became mates. I smiled at myself getting all giddy inside and jumped into the shower to get ready for him. When Keaton came over that night, I was lay sprawled on the bed in my lingerie, and his mini-me immediately sprung to life. He audibly gulped and just stood frozen in the middle of my bedroom. I slowly got up and made me towards him. He gulped again, and I gently grazed his arms with my fingertips, making him shiver at my touch. He was putty and I loved it. Keaton, take your clothes off, he just nodded and quickly made haste of his clothing. He lasted a little longer this time, but still, not as long as he would have hoped for. Seeing him only made me giggle. Baby, you're too good at that. I don't know if I will ever last more than a few minutes with you if you keep doing it so amazingly, he said breathlessly. I'm glad to know that I can sure you so quickly. It gives me a boost in confidence, I tell him and started on him again. Ah! Keaton, I said and got up wrapping my arms around his neck. I want you until the sun comes up, he didn't even say anything to that. He swiftly picked up me and took me back to my bed where he started to worship my body. Keaton. Oh, my goddess. Yes. Oh. Ah. MMMM. MMMM, you taste like heaven, he said to me and gave me a mouth-watering kiss. Keaton, I love you so much, I am 0ANED as his pace quickened even more. He came himself and both we collapsed. Keaton, if we keep going like this, I'm going to end up pregnant. Good. What? Good, he said again. I just turned over and looked at him. There's no one I would want other than you to carry my pup. What's going to happen if Tareen is carrying your pup? Then, we're going to work through it. I'm not giving you up, baby, you've been marked, that means you're stuck with me forever. As soon as the pup is born, and we have our answer on whether or not her pup is mine, we're going to make our relationship public, and you're going to mark me back. Tareen is no one but an egg donor at this point. Also, if you're up for the fight, I want to petition the elders for sole custody of the pup. Tareen is toxic and is an unfit mother. You want me to raise her pup? No, I want us to raise my pup, if it's mine. I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't know whether to be scared or happy that he wanted me to raise his pup with him. I couldn't help but feel bad at the same time though, knowing that he was planning on taking a pup away from his birth mother. But after meeting Tarine just that one time, I knew that she was toxic, and it wouldn't be safe for his pup to be raised around that kind of energy. Irene, he looked at me concerned. I snuggled into his arms and inhaled his scent. I'll do whatever makes you happy, baby, I tell him NKSS his peck. But before we get into more details, put your DCK inside of me again. I told you wanted to until the sun comes up. He immediately got on top of me, and in no time at all, he was hard again. Keaton didn't disappoint as our night turned into passionate L0V making until dawn. Chapter 38. Kendrick's POV. Angel, do you think we should have told my dad our suspicions like that? Babe, he was berating him to be with Tarine. I just couldn't stand by and watch that. Melody and I were in our room after dinner and discussing what happened earlier in the afternoon. I hated seeing my brother being hounded by our dad about Tarine, but I honestly wasn't sure telling him that Tarine may be lying about the pregnancy was a good thing. I know what you mean, I do, but still, what if we're wrong? I'm not wrong. I even asked my mom around when a pregnant she-wolf's scent changes and she said around 2 to 3 weeks. Which also means, if the timing is right, Tarine will go into labor in the next week to week and a half rather the next 3 weeks. I just let out a deep sigh and put my hands behind my head. I felt bad for my little brother and I couldn't help but think about my mom. I wonder what my mom would honestly think about all of this. I say my thought out loud. You knew her better than anyone, how do you think she would feel? Melody asked while hugging my torso and leaning against my chest. I put my arm around her and kept my other hand behind my head. I thought about my mom and what she really would think. My mom was someone who believed in the mate bond incredibly. She always told us to be careful when we started to sleep around and to always use protection or pull out. My mom wasn't naive by any means and knew that she couldn't stop Keaton or me from sleeping around. But I knew for a fact that she would not condone what my father was doing. She would be pissed like Keaton said. My mom would never want Keaton to reject his mate over a stupid mistake as getting a girl pregnant. She'd want him to be responsible for it, but she wouldn't want to give up his mate. She would also put Tarine in her place for all she's done. Then you have your answer, Melody replied NKSSCD my jaw. Let's go to bed, you have training tomorrow, I nodded my head NKSSCD her temple. She pulled the covers over us, and I brought her close to me and we both drifted into dreamland. Saren's POV. The last couple of weeks after the last rogue attack have been crazy, to say the least. Jasper took a leave of absence from his company to concentrate on the finding out who is after us, or me I should say, and who is potentially letting them into our territory. Jason's dad Felix is 100% certain that there is someone in the pack who knows the security protocol that is betraying us, but Jasper is holding off on an investigation until we have more information. Melody, Milan, and Michelle are constantly looking through the news articles online to see if any more teens or young adults go missing and wind up dead not too long after. Lorenzo has been training me non-stop, and it's also getting harder with the crazy winter storms we have been having. Currently, we are in the library organizing books using my telekinesis. Saren, I'm going to pull out several books from one section, and I want to remember where I got them from, Lorenzo said to me and I nodded my head. I sat back while he used his powers to pull out several books, and I did my best to make sure to remember where he got each book. He started with 4 to make it easy. Okay, now, without using your hands, I want you use your powers to put them back. What? Without my hands? You mean, use only my mind? That's exactly what I mean. But, I've never done that before. Well, you need to learn. What's going to happen if your hands are bound or restrained? You need to be able to control your telepathy with your mind and perfect it. Using your hands is like a handicap, and you won't always have it, he said bluntly, and I pouted at his tone. But Lorenzo wasn't Jasper or Ronan, or any of the other guys, he doesn't fall for it. How do I do this? I can't tell you that. Everyone who has had this power uses it differently, and all of their minds work differently as well. You need to find what works for you. I let out a frustrated sigh and looked at the books. I concentrated on one and tapped into my power. I gripped the side of the chair to keep myself from using my hands. I could feel myself willing the book to lift off the floor, and for a split second it did, but it fell back down. I shook it off and stared at it again. Come on, get off the floor. Get off the floor. Get off the floor. I repeated in my head. I squinted my eyes and put all of my focus on the book, and it started to slowly lift off the ground. Little by little, it started to float to the shelf where Lorenzo pulled it out from. The problem I had now was flipping the book around and putting back in its place. That hurdle alone made me drop the book back on the floor. I shouted in pure frustration. I was not going to give up though. I decided to use a different tactic. I used my powers to turn the book over, stand it up to there the spine of the book was facing me, and then lifted it up off the ground. When I got it back to where it needed to go, I realized then, I didn't know how to will it to go forward. It dropped again. Ugh. I growled and pulled at my hair. Stop getting angry. Lorenzo shouted at me. I looked at him in shock. This is why you need training. You're getting frustrated and angry over something as trivial as this and it only shows our immaturity, Saren. I jumped at his words. You're making this harder than it has to be, he exclaimed. Without breaking eye contact with me, he put all of the books back in a matter of seconds. I frowned at how easy this was for him, but he also had centuries to perfect his powers. I understand that you didn't have the proper training growing up to control your emotions, but I also don't have years to teach you. You need to learn this and learn it fast, and you get pissed off for not getting in the first 2 tries doesn't help anyone. Stop yelling at me. I'm trying. No, you're whining. I'm not the alpha, and I'm not your friends. I'm here to keep you alive because if you die, our species will never exist again. That's not fair. You can't put that pressure on me. I didn't ask for this. I shouted back and stood up. I can't do this. I started to stomp out of the library but then I realized that I wasn't moving. The next thing I knew, I was turned back around and was pulled back to Lorenzo. He used his powers on me. What the hell? We're not done. And you will not walk away from this. You may not have asked for this life, but the powers that be feel that you are worthy of it. Now stop acting like a child and perfect your powers. His attitude and tone were pissing me off. It's like I was dealing with another Eric or another Kale and just thinking of those was making my blood boil. I had no idea what came over at me that moment, but a split second later, Lorenzo went flying back into one of the bookshelves and fell face first onto the floor. Oh my God! I ran over to help him to his feet. Lorenzo, are you okay? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I don't even know how I... Good work, he said without batting an eye. Hey! Saren, that was a powerful blast you just gave me, you threw me further than you have anything in the last month and a half, and I weigh over 85 kilograms. And look, you're still standing." I looked at myself and he was right. I didn't pass out. "Whatever you were thinking just now before you blasted me into the shelf, use that. That's your trigger to controlling your powers," he said to me and put his hand on my shoulder with a smile. I just looked at him confused and shocked. "Saren!" I heard Jasper's voice. He ran into the library and came up to me. "What happened?" I felt a surge of power in the castle and I thought, "What the?" Jasper stopped mid-sentence when he saw the mess. I almost killed Lorenzo," I say softly looking up at him. "What?" he asked. "Nonsense, I can't be killed. She just blasted me with a powerful ray of her telepathy and sent me flying about 10 feet into his shelf. If it wasn't here, I could have gone a lot further," Lorenzo said with his hands behind his back being all cheerful that I just handed to him. "Saren, is that true?" Jasper asked, and I just nodded. "It appears that anger is actually her trigger, and something else, though I'm not sure what it is," Lorenzo said looking at me. "What were you thinking about before you blasted him, dearest?" His attitude and tone of voice calling me immature reminded me of Eric and Ash. Jasper looked back at Lorenzo with an annoyed face. "I'm sorry, but who are Eric and Ash?" Lorenzo asked. "Eric was the alpha that killed my family and turned me into a child slave. Kale is his son, who is now currently alpha, and he was," I explained. "I see, so anger and loathing are your triggers," Lorenzo said tapping his chin. "I need to make some changes to your training plan, so, we're done for today," he said to me suddenly. "Allow me to clean up the mess. How are books arranged here?" "Alphabetically," Jasper answered. "Very well, you two carry on with your day, and I will fix the library. Luna, tomorrow you can have the day off. I need to meet with the witch that I contacted about the rogue issue. I will let you know what she says after our meeting." Jasper and I just nod, and we leave him to do what he needs to do. "Are you okay?" he asked me as we walked to the kitchen. "Yes, I'm fine, a little freaked out at how much power I used on him, but I'm fine." "I'm proud of you. Hey! You stood up for yourself, and you knocked him, and you're still standing. That's progress, baby, and I'm proud of you." I couldn't help but smile. I put my arms around his neck and got on my tippy toes to kiss him, but before I could, there was shouting coming from upstairs. "Yo! Where is my brother?" Kendrick shouted as he was carrying Tarine down the stairs. "What happened?" Jasper shouted. "She's going into labor," Kendrick shouted back and ran past us. "It's too early. It's too early. I need at least another week for my plan to work." I heard Tarine's thoughts as Kendrick rushed past us. "Plan? What plan?" I said to myself. "Saren, try to mind link Keaton or his wolf," Jasper said and ran after them. I tried to mind link Keaton but was met with a block. So I concentrated on his wolf. "Chase? Can you hear me? Luna? Chase, wherever you and Keaton are, stop what you're going and get to the hospital, Tarine is giving birth. And I know that Keaton doesn't want to miss this. I will let him know." "Thank you, Luna." I already know how much Keaton despises Tarine and that he doesn't believe the pup is his, but hearing what Tarine said in her thoughts just now makes me wonder the same thing. What plan? I shook the thought from my head for the time being and went to the Pack Hospital to see if I could help with anything. When I got there, Tarine was screaming bloody murder and cursing at everyone, even Kendrick and Jasper. They eventually decided to stay away from her and left her alone in the room with the midwives and Dr. Andrews. She was cursing at them and screaming for Keaton. "Where is Keaton?" she screamed at the top of her lungs. "Saren, did you contact him?" "I did, he should be on his way," I replied and looked towards Tarine was being ridiculously mean and cruel to everyone. "Who is her mom?" "Her parents are dead. They died in a car accident when she was 17, Kendrick answered. Chapter 39. Saren's POV. "Saren, what do you mean Tarine led Kendrick's mom and is lying about the pup?" Jasper exclaimed in horror. After hearing her thoughts, I immediately grabbed Jasper and dragged him back to our room and told him what I heard. Jasper was shocked, to say the least, but he was mostly angry more than anything. "I swear Jasper, that's what she said, or thought." "Dearest, are you positive? Are you 100% certain that Tarine admitted to killing Kendrick's mom?" "Yes." I shouted at him. "The pup? Tarine's pup, she also admitted to it not being Keaton's." "Yes. Son of a asterisk." Jasper shouted and rubbed his face furiously. "Jasper, we have to tell Kendrick and the others." "Not yet." "What?" "Saren, I don't doubt your powers, and I know they won't either, but we need proof." I let out a sigh and nodded my head. "The pup part Keaton is already working on," I replied. "What?" "Keaton already believes that Tarine has been lying about her pregnancy. At first he thought it was fake, but then when he saw her getting bigger with time, he started to question if it was even his. I think he's planning to get a DNA test done after it's born to confirm it." "Melody and Kendrick have also voiced their thoughts on that too," he said to me. "What?" "Dot and Ken came to me about 2 weeks ago saying that they believed Tarine has been lying about the pup belonging to Keaton. Something about her scent." "Right, if there's one thing I know about pregnancies is that a female's scent will change over time, and she will smell like her pup rather than her own scent until the pup is born." "Yeah that," he said and sat on the couch. Dot said that Tarine smelled like pine cones or pine trees, or whatever. But Mel and Tarine used to play together when they were young and she said that Tarine used to smell like bananas, so her smelling like pine came from the pup. "Okay." Keaton told Dot that Tarine has always smelled like pine to him. Oh, my eyes got wide. That would mean she was pregnant before they met. Exactly. Dot thinks that Tarine lied about being on the pill to get Keaton to let his guard down. Well, if it comes back that the pup really doesn't belong to him, then what's going to happen? I'll kick her out of the castle and put her in a home within the territory. I could have her banished, but I want to prove that she led Aunt Lizzie. I nodded my head and let out another deep breath. "So, if Tarine is kicked out, does that allow Keaton to keep his maid if he ever finds her?" "Yes, because Tarine has no ties to him." I just nodded my head again and internally smiled to myself. I would love to formally meet Irene. "Jasper, what's going to happen when you do find proof that Tarine led Lizzie, I mean, she technically led a ranked female?" "That's the hard part. I would have to have her executed, but since she'd be a single mother, killing her would orphan her pup, and I don't want to do that. But, I know Uncle Dylan, and the guys, they're going to push for execution regardless of her pup's well-being." "That's so mean and cruel," I said, crossing my arms. "Being an orphan is something I know too well, and I would never wish it on anyone. I know this hits home for you, dearest, but you also have to see it from their perspective. Tarine led Dylan's mate, his wife, and the mother to his sons. She led Ken and Keaton's mother, their sole reason for being decent men. Aside from being man WH0 res of course, I couldn't help but chuckle at that remark. They're not going to want to spare her life solely on her bastard pup. Her pup has no relation to them, and is potentially the reason why Tareen LLED Lizzie. But Lizzie died before Tareen and Keaton ever met. No, she didn't. Tareen and her family have always been a part of this pack. Her parents died in a car accident, and believe it or not, Tareen lived in the castle under Lizzie's wing. What? Tareen and Keaton were friends growing up, but he never liked her that way, but rumor has it, she always liked him. Everyone thought they would actually turn out to be mates, but they didn't. She's a year older than Keaton, so when she turned 18 and didn't find her mate right away, she thought it would be Keaton. But when that didn't turn out to be the case, she got angry. Did Keaton sleep around before turning 18? Yeah, I think he started around 15 or 16, just like Kendrick did, and I remember Melody saying Tareen was obsessed with Keaton and would get jealous and upset when he would sleep around. I just shook my head. How did she even get Keaton to have sex with her if he didn't like her that way? I honestly have no idea, but it could be because he was just being a guy, and she was an easy lay. An easy what? An easy lay. Oh, is that what you consider me? What? Saren, why would say that? Well, I'm easy aren't I? Saren, that's what I meant. When I say easy, I mean a girl or guy who is willing to have sex with anyone and everyone. Oh, then you and the others were easy lays then, right? Saren. What? It's true. You had sex with a lot of women. I did, but I was not easy. I had sex with who I wanted to, not because someone was there. Well, what about Layla? Yes, she was an easy lay, even though she was a virgin when I had sex with her, but she was more than willing to give it up to me, plus she took advantage of the fact that I was drunk when it happened. That's too confusing. Dearest, please don't ever call yourself easy, please, I don't want people thinking that because it is the furthest thing from the truth. Yes, having sex with you is easy for me, but that's because you are my mate and the love of my life. You make me weak in the knees, and I can't help but give my all to you when you ask for it, because well, I want nothing more than the shove whenever you ask, but I live to please and pleasure you my beautiful Luna, he said to me while caressing my cheek with his thumb. Ugh, his smoothing talking, and beautiful loving gestures make me weak too. Jasper, I want your all right now, his eyes turned black with L.ust, and he wasted no time in getting both of us ached and having me on the floor of our room. Keaton's POV. I was sitting in the waiting room of the hospital, and all I could hear was Tareen screaming from the delivery room. She was cursing at everyone and demanding for me, but everyone who came to ask I shut down immediately. There was no way in hell I was going into the delivery room with her acting like that. I wished that Irene were working today so I could at least catch glances at her, but today was her day off, and I was hoping to spend the entire day with her. After spending the night at her place with her parents out of town, I was so excited to wake up with her in my arms. After being with her for a little over 2 months now, I can definitely say I'm in love. I can't wait to prove this pup isn't mine and get rid of lying good for nothing. Irene belongs in my room in the castle. As I was waiting for Tareen to give birth, I spent the first few hours texting Irene back and forth. Me, I love you baby, I can't wait to finally have you in the castle with me. No more sneaking around. My Aphrodite, I love you too. How is she doing? Me, if I know. I'm not in the room with her. I'm only here to get the umbilical cord when it's born so I can send it off. My Aphrodite, that's mean baby, what if it actually does turn out to be yours? You're going to regret not being there for the birth. Me, I'm going to in there for the birth, just not for the screaming and wailing. She's already kicked out my brother, the Alpha, the Luna, and several of the nurses. There's only one midwife in there right now with her, and that's because she can't be left alone. My Aphrodite, ugh, I don't understand her problem. She's in labor, and from what you told me, she has no one else. Why can't she just swallow her pride and let people help her, especially someone like the Luna? Does she really want to get on everyone's bad side? Me, she's already on everyone's bad side, baby. No one likes her, Jason and Milan aren't even here. My Aphrodite, do you want me to go over there? Just as moral support? Me, as much as I would love that baby, I'd be tempted to your sweet while you're next to me, so I think it's best if you stay home. But you can do me a favor. My Aphrodite, anything for you, baby. My Aphrodite, Keaton. You're horrible. LOL. Me, you love me either way. My Aphrodite, yes, I do, but I'm not going to do that. It's not like you haven't watched me finger myself. Me, I'd prefer if you didn't masturbate too often, my delectable mate. My Aphrodite, oh, you think so? Me, I know so. Now, be a good girl. I gotta go, my dad is here. I love you to the moon and back. I put my phone away just as my dad came into the waiting room. He didn't look very happy seeing me here instead of in the room with Tarine. Keaton, you need to get in there and support her. No, I don't, she's not my mate, I said sternly from my seat. I had zero respect for my father at this moment because he only cared about his reputation rather than his own son's happiness. My mother would have never allowed this. I wish we could find whoever poisoned her and get justice. I would love to take my anger out on that person. Keaton, come on bro, this is inged up. She's in there practically alone giving birth, and you're just out here playing on your phone, my brother said to me. He didn't even like Tarine, why was he on her side? Leave him alone. I heard a shriek behind them. Melody came around and stood next to me. He doesn't have to be in there if he doesn't want to be. She is not his mate, and he has every right to choose to stay out here until the actual birth. There's no reason to support someone who treats everyone like SHT and acts like she's better than them. She's already kicked out half a dozen nurses because they're all female. The only person left in there with her is a midwife, and by the looks of things, she's about to give up too. No one wants to be in that room, and even the professionally trained people that are supposed to be helping her, so why should Keaton have to go in there? You already know how she's going to act when a nurse comes in with him in there. Thank the goddess for Melody. She was the only one who actually cared about what I felt about all of this. Angel, what are you doing? I'm standing up for Keaton because apparently, his own family is turning against him. Both my dad and Kendrick were taken aback by her outburst, but I was grateful. If Lizzie were here, she'd beat the SHT out of both you for even considering giving Tarine a reward for her behavior the last several months and how she is acting towards those who are trying to help her make this process comfortable. She hasn't even gotten an epidural yet because she won't let Dr. Andrews administer it. What? Why not? My dad asked. Because Dr. Andrews is an older man. She has a problem with everyone. Just as Melody said this, the midwife that was in Tarine's room came out of the room shouting. I'm done with this asterisk. I will not sit in there and be called degrading names just because she can't handle the fact her baby daddy doesn't want to be in there, she screamed and stomped away. I looked at my dad and brother and just lifted a brow. Well, that only proves my point, Melody says and stares back at them. Dad, you want someone to be in there with her, you go. You've always been on her side, so go. You want to reward her behavior, go right ahead. It won't change the fact that I hate her with a passion, and can honestly care less if she's in pain, I said and shooed him with my hand. Keaton, he shouted at me. Off, Dad! I shouted and got in his face. I'm not going in there. I couldn't stand to be in the hospital anymore. This Ken, mind link me when she's about to give birth, I'm going for a run. I disregarded everyone and left. I knew that labor took several hours, so I figured I had time to go see Irene. PPD out of my clothes and made sure not to lose my phone. I shifted into my wolf chase, and picked up my clothes with my mouth, and decided to have her meet me at the cave instead of me going to her house. That way it would look like we were just going for separate runs. I got there before her, and about 5 minutes later, she arrived in wolf form as well. Her wolf Abigail was beautiful just like her. Irene was a natural redhead, so it made sense that her wolf was more of fiery amber color. Abigail, you look amazing as always, I say to her. She huffs and wags her tail in excitement. Do you want to this in human form or wolf form? She wagged her tail again and just turned to show me her behind. She wiggled her furry tushy, and I knew she wanted to mate in wolf form. Chase was more than excited about that and immediately took over. I let him have the reins, and he wasted no time in mounting Abigail and having his way with her. As much as I wanted time with Irene, Chase and Abigail deserved some private time too. So, I retreated and let him have his mate. After 3 hours of non-stop mating, Chase nodded inside of Abigail and they both collapsed on the ground. Keaton, what happened? Ha ha ha. Chase and Abigail are fused together. Wait like 5 minutes, he will pull out. I love you, Keaton. Even though we were in wolf form, I could feel everything. It was amazing. Baby, I felt it all too. Chase loves Abigail just as much as I love you, and that's saying a lot. Before Irene could respond, Chase pulled out and gave me back control. This was on his back and passed out. I couldn't help but laugh at him and took control to shift back. Irene did the same and we were standing in front of each other in our birthday suits. I'll never get tired of looking at this ex-body of yours, I say and grab her P.S. Keaton, did you bring the potion? S.H.T. No, I didn't. I'll have to go to my room before heading back to the hospital to get it. I leaned my head down and started on her mark, making her shiver in my arms. Her reaction made me hard in no time at all, and I decided to have my turn, but before I could hit home, I got a link from Kendrick. She's getting ready to push. Get back here. What's wrong? I got to go, she's about to push. I still need to get back to my room first. Go, everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to. I love you. I love you too, now go. I shifted back into Chase, grabbed my clothes, and dashed for the castle. Thankfully, our hidden cave is only a 10-minute run in wolf form. I got to the back door and shifted back. I pulled on my pants and made a run for it to my room. I quickly unlocked it, went to my safe, and grabbed one of my potions. I decided to down 2 of them. I was about to go back to the hospital when I saw the DNA kit on my desk. I tore it open and got my saliva and cheek cells on the swab and sealed it. I prepared the postage and placed that along with the bag that would hold the umbilical cord of the pup and put it into my back pocket. I was not going to lose this opportunity to get the truth. If that pup isn't mine, then I'm going to expose her and have her and her pup banished. I locked my safe, double-checking to be sure, and then did the same with my room. I didn't trust anyone, especially Tarine. I made my way back to the hospital and went into the room. Keaton! Where the hell has you been? Tarine shouted at me and reached for my hand. I stepped aside and just sat on the couch. I didn't want to see the birth, I was just in there for one sole purpose, and that was to get the umbilical cord. I've been busy, I tell her. Keaton, please, I need you to comfort me. You've been in here for 8 hours by yourself, I think you can handle another few minutes without my comfort. I saw her eyes swell up with tears, but I didn't feel bad. Tarine, you need to push. Dr. Andrew shouted. So she did, she screamed her head off and pushed. I wished to the moon goddess I had earplugs, because I couldn't stand the screeching coming out of her. Thankfully, that didn't last too long, when the cries of a newborn filled the hospital room. Young Beta, would you like to do the honors? Dr. Andrews asked me and was holding a pair of scissors. I got up, put on a glove, and snipped the cord. I disposed of the glove and watched to see where the good doctor would dispose of the cord. He put it into a tray next to him. The doctor was too busy cleaning Tarine up, and she was too busy ogling over her pup. While no one was looking, I fished the cord out of the tray with one of the gauze pads and rolled it up. I went into the bathroom and quickly placed it into the baggie in my pocket, and sealed the test closed. I put it back in my pocket, flushed the toilet to make it seem like I took a piss, and washed my hands. When I came back out, I was shocked and yet relieved when I saw the pup. I knew this was going to be a small dunk in my favor. I didn't need the paternity test. Well, it looks you have some explaining to do, Tarine, I say with complete disgust in my voice. I could see the terror in her eyes when she knew what I meant. Keaton. Why does your pup have blonde hair? Chapter 40. Tarine's POV. I was in labor, and everyone was pissing me off. Keaton refused to be in the room with me, and that just angered me even more. All these sluts and bitches trying to act like they're trying to help when I know for a fact that they just want to get a glimpse of Keaton. I didn't want any females in my room, and I sure as hell didn't want that old fart Dr. Andrews going anywhere near my hoo-ha until it was actually time to give birth. I tried to mind-link Keaton, but as always, he had a block up. He never took it down. I would never be able to mind-link him though our pack bond. I needed him here. I needed him to feel my pain, and bond with me while I gave birth, but he refused to. I was 5 hours into my labor when Dylan came into my room. I know he was suspicious of me, but he was also the only one who was pushing Keaton to make me his mate. Dylan, I cried. Tarine, how are you feeling? He asked with actual sincerity. I hate this, why does Keaton hate me? I don't know, sweet girl, but I'm going to make sure he takes care of you, okay? I don't care what anyone says, you and Keaton will raise this pup together. I need him in here, where is he? I'm sorry, sweet girl, but he's left the hospital. He and I had an altercation, and he stormed out. Kendrick will link him when it's time to push. He promised he'd be here for the birth, so don't you worry. I just started to cry. I was so pissed off. I'm in here alone, giving birth to a pup, and the person I need to be the father is refusing to acknowledge me. I'm just praying that he doesn't doubt that he's the father. That would be the worst thing to ever happen. 3 hours later, Dr. Andrews came back into to check on me, and I was so out of it from the drugs, and the contractions, I didn't care. He was looking at my vajayjay. Tarine, it's time. When you feel your next contraction, I need you to push. Nurse, Please go inform the beta. Yes, doctor. After about 10 minutes of pushing, Keaton finally came in. Keaton! Where the hell have you been? I shouted at him in complete irritation. I tried to reach for him, but he stepped aside and went to go sit on the couch. I've been busy, he says with no emotion in his voice. Busy? He's been busy? I've been in labor for 8 hours and he's been busy? Keaton, please, I need you to comfort me. I begged. You've been in here for 8 hours by yourself, I think you can handle another few minutes without my comfort. His words were so cold and vile. I couldn't help the tears that swelled up in my eyes. Tareen, you need to push. Dr. Andrews shouted at me. I felt my next contraction, and I pushed as hard as I could. Even though I couldn't feel much, I did feel something fall out of me, and then I felt nothing but relief. Beta, would you like to do the honors? Dr. Andrews asked Keaton. I didn't even know what he was asking until I heard the snip of a pair of scissors. Keaton cut the cord. At least he did that much. The nurse handed me my pup, and I was so in love. He was beautiful, but there was one age problem I realized immediately. My baby had blonde hair. This was going bad in more ways than one. I'm a natural brunette, and Keaton has hair black as night. He was going to know immediately that this pup wasn't his. I hadn't even noticed Keaton went to the bathroom until he came back out and looked straight at me and the baby. Well, it looks you have some explaining to do, Tareen, he says to me with disgust in his voice. He's glaring at me hard and I know he noticed the baby's hair color. Keaton! Why does your pup have blonde hair? Young beta, sometimes it's normal for a pup to come out with hair lighter than what it turns out to be. Give it a few months, it should darken, Dr. Andrews said. I let out a deep sigh of relief internally. He unknowingly just saved me from suspicion, or did he? I looked at Keaton, who was still glaring at me. Keaton, do you want to hold him? I asked softly. I need him to bond with the pup. He looked at my baby, and then back at me, and turned his heel and walked away without saying anything. I couldn't help but start crying. I held my baby close and just cried. I needed Keaton to bond with my baby so he could have feelings for him. My pup deserved a father to love him. Why was my plan to get Keaton to take me as his mate and my pup as his own completely going to SHT? Just a couple of months ago, Keaton was at least excited to be a father even if he hated me. But about 2 weeks after the Luna ceremony, he became more and more distant. He stopped touching my belly and he stopped talking to the baby. I thought he was just angry with me, but I'm starting to realize he didn't just hate me, he was starting to hate my baby. Something changed, something made him change his mind, and I needed to figure out what it was. I looked down at my baby and held him close. I don't care what anyone said or did. My baby was going to be seen as a beta and not some low-level omega like his biological father. My true mate. The one that I rejected. I was weak when we met, and I gave in to the bond. One night was all it took, and I realized that I only wanted Keaton and not my mate. So, I rejected him, but it was too little too late. I found out 2 weeks later that I was pregnant, and I needed to quickly sleep with Keaton. 2 weeks later, I announced my pregnancy and things started to fall into place, except Keaton loving me in return. He had told me to abort the baby, but it was Dylan who took my side. Ever since I've been trying to keep Keaton away from women because I couldn't have him find his mate. Even if his father told him to reject her, I knew Keaton never would. Thankfully though, he has yet to find her. I need him to bond with my son. I'm hoping that if he does, it will be strong enough to force him to reject his mate if she ever does decide to show herself. And if that day does come, I'm going to be sure to make her life a living hell so she will want to stay away from him as well. I looked down at my pup, my beautiful son, and decided to name him Killian. Killian, don't you worry, Mommy will get your daddy back, and we will be one big happy family, just you wait and see. Lorenzo's POV. I was making my way to my meeting and couldn't help but get a little excited. I waited in the forest right outside of the pack territory and looked at my watch. She was running a few minutes behind. I walked around with my hands behind my back when suddenly, I hit with a blast to the back and went flying into a tree. I got up to see who attacked me, but when I turned around, I pinned to the tree. Lorenzo. Olivia, we stared into each other's eyes for a moment. I couldn't take the tension anymore. I grabbed her P.S., F.L., P.P.E.D. us around, and K.S.S.C.D. her. Our tongues danced and fought for control, but I grabbed her and lifted her up. Her legs wrapped around me, and the bulge in my pants was starting to strain. She was wearing a maxi skirt, so while using my body to hold her against the tree. Lorenzo, we can't keep doing this, you rejected me. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. She jumped on top of me, and quickly guided me inside of her again. She hit me across the face a few times and started to grind her P.S. making me M0AN in pleasure. I grabbed her P.S. and brought down her on top of me, holding in place, making sure every millimeter of my shaft was inside of her. She put her hands to my C.Hest and let her guard down. IFL, PPED us back over and used my powers to keep her still while I thrust into her with all of my strength, making her scream. Lorenzo. Yes. Yes, she screamed. I knew people would be able to hear us, but it would just look like two humans in the forest. Olivia, you know I hate it when you use your powers this way. I'd like to see you do something about it, she challenged me. Controlling how much or how little pleasure your partner received made it very entertaining. I stood to my feet, taking over our situation. Olivia was a powerful witch, but her powers were no match for mine, and she knew it. I levitated her in the air and brought her to me. I lowered us back to the ground, where I planned to finish her off. I crashed my L.P.S. onto hers and thrust a few more times before bottoming out and having my own release. You, Lorenzo, she muttered when we both caught our breath. You love it, I replied while zipping up my pants and helped her to her feet. You said it was important, why did you need to meet with me? Olivia, what do you know about turning humans into artificial werewolves? She looked at me and furrowed her brows. Renz, why are you asking me that? I'm currently staying with a pack just beyond this forest, and about 2.5 weeks ago, they were attacked by about 3 dozen rogues. They were abnormally large, and one was thankfully captured. However, we found out he's human. She bit her bottom L.P., and I wanted nothing more than to K.S.S. her L.P.S., but I had to restrain myself. Renz, did you test his blood? Yes, it contained the wolf DNA, canine parvovirus, rabies, and anabolic steroids. Renz, this is serious. That potion is never meant to be used on humans, it's supposed to help make actual wolves stronger. How do you know this? Because I made it, but I made it to help weak and sick rogues. I never added steroids though, I just looked at her in confusion. Renz, my sanctuary was robbed a few months ago, and they took everything, including the potion and the instructions on how to make it. How does it work? It's simple, just take the potion. But whoever stole it must have added the steroids and is giving it to humans. The potion alone can't change a human into a wolf. No, but a spell can. The potion is to boost a weak wolf's immune system by giving two things that normal wolf would contract: parvo and rabies. The additional wolf DNA is to help fight it off while giving them a boost at the same time. I just let out a sigh and nodded my head. Renz, why did you leave Italy? I'm here training one of my own. What? What do you mean? I gave her a look and she paused. Oh my god, a primordial. I nodded. But, how? I thought. She's the chosen one. What? Are you saying that she's finally been born? Yes, but there was a slight issue in her upbringing, and now I have years of training to catch her up on in a matter of months. Wait, are you saying she's already an adult? She is, and she's a Luna. Olivia's eyes widened. Her mate, the Alpha, is he? Pure-blooded, yes. Renz, you know what this means, right? I do, but they can't know, not yet. She is fragile and new things are being thrown at her all at once. I need her to keep her emotions under control, and learning another secret about herself would only add to her stress. This is crazy, you have to tell her, or at least him. No, it's too soon, I tell her sternly. My love, do you know who broke into your sanctuary? No. I cast a spell to show me, but it didn't work. It was an upper-level dark witch, but I don't know who. Do you know anyone that would have something against the Blue Lake Pack? Blue, are you telling me that the chosen one is the Luna of the largest pack on this side of the country? Yes, she is. Renz, do you understand how valuable she is? Not just for who she is, but just the fact that she is the Luna to this pack. What do you mean? Rumor has it that she had a mate before the Alpha of Blue Lake. Blood Moon's current Alpha, Cale Patterson, was her first mate, and he rejected her, but was too late in taking it back. Wait, Ash? Is his father's name Eric by any chance? Yes, how did you know? Olivia, are you aware they turned her into a child slave and killed her family? What? She's the pack slave. You know of her? Renz, every supernatural knew of her. It was no secret that Blood Moon had a slave in their pack. I was not aware that she was a primordial. Neither did anyone else apparently. After killing her family, they assumed she was an Omega. Well, this makes a lot of sense now. The rumors only say that Cale lost his future Luna, a powerful female Alpha, but no one ever made the connection that the pack slave was the same girl. Other than Blood Moon, who else would want her? Every unmated male in the history of werewolves. Not everyone knows who she really is. Only the strongest and oldest of elders would know, and of course, people like you and me. Are you saying that there are other alphas who want to claim her? That is exactly what I am saying, and I know that some would go as far as to use dark magic to make it happen. It's bad enough that the Luna has to worry about Alessandro finding out about her existence, but having to fight horny unmated alphas is another issue. She just nodded her head. My love, do you think you can build an antiserum for the potion? What? Why? Olivia, there are humans being turned into artificial wolves. Now that Blue Lake knows that, they don't want to kill them if they attack again, but they may not have a choice. It's not like they can capture them all and wait for them to turn human again. If you can come up with antiserum to reverse the effect of the potion as well as the dark magic behind it, then we can save innocent lives. Give me time, let me see what I can do. She turned to walk away, but I stopped her. Olivia, I turned her to face and pulled her into a passionate kiss. I kissed her until our lungs needed to breathe. I love you. Then why couldn't you accept me? Because it was forbidden. I never expected for Selene or the other powers to give me a second chance, let alone you. But you know as well as I do that our species can never mix. I'm a primordial, and you're a high-level light witch. We would always be in danger. If the chosen one can have her happy ending, why can't we? My love, she's not in a happy ending. Her life is constantly in danger right now, and she feels responsible for the kidnapping of innocent mortals. I cupped her face and stared into her eyes. Her beautiful green orbs that I would love to get lost in for eternity. If I lost you, I would have to live eternity heartbroken. I would rather love you from afar as the one who got away knowing that you're alive and well than live in a world where you don't exist. It's the price I pay for being immortal. Lorenzo, I love you. And I you, my sweet Olivia. I kissed her once more and she disappeared into the woods. After a moment to myself, I went back to the pack territory to share the information Olivia provided to me. I kept out the information of her being my second chance mate that I also had to reject. Thankfully, my powers were far more advanced than the Luna's and I was able to hide this fact from her with a telepathic block. Though I doubted she would peer into my thoughts without permission, one could never be too careful with private information such as this. Wait, are you saying that it could be another pack experimenting on humans? Jasper asked me. Yes, Alpha, that is what my Wiccan friend explained. She said that she made the potion to strengthen and heal non-feral rogues that were injured or poisoned, but a few months ago, a dark witch broke into her sanctuary and stole everything, and is using dark magic in addition to the potion to create these wolves. And you said she is willing to make an antiserum. She's willing to try, I replied, and he nodded. I was going to say something else when Saren started to sniff me. Lorenzo, you smell different, she said and started to circle me. Luna, what are you doing? She kept sniffing me and got uncomfortably close. You smell girly, and, she sniffed a few more times, aroused. Excuse me, Luna, I stepped back startled at the fact that she could smell Olivia on me. Olivia always masked her scent so it would never linger, but here Saren was sensing her. And she could sense that I recently had intercourse. Lorenzo, did you have sex with one of our pack members? She asked. I beg your, Luna, I do not like to be accused of something so outrageous, I defended. Why are you getting so antsy? It's just a question. There are plenty of unmated females in our pack, and none of them know how old you are. They're just going to see someone really hot middle-aged man, and I'm sure you can get an easy lay, she said and looked back at the Alpha and he just nodded his head. Plus, given your age, I'm sure you are quite, what's the word, experienced. Luna, though I appreciate the compliment about my being a hot-looking middle-aged man, I do not appreciate you insinuating that I had intercourse with one of your pack members. Well, you had intercourse with someone. Why else would I smell your AR0 usual? Do men even put off a smell? Jasper asked. Oh my goddess, yes, yours is crazy potent babe, she tells him. I started to snicker and try to keep my composure. Lorenzo, I wouldn't laugh. Yours is even more potent than his, she said to me, making Jasper throw his head back in laughter. It's like you haven't had sex in ages and you were more than aroused, you were excited, very excited, she said and wiggled her eyebrows at me. This gesture made me choke on my own saliva and Jasper rolled over laughing. I do not know what you are talking about. I think I will go to my room and rest before dinner. I walked out as fast I could while feeling flustered. This child actually made me feel embarrassed about being a man. What surprised me more was how sensitive her sense of smell actually was. Saren is definitely going to be a handful, but I also had a feeling that she was going to do her ancestors proud. Chapter 41. Keaton's POV. It's been 2 weeks since I sent out the paternity test, and I was supposed to be getting the results today. I hated having to wait, but my friend in Canada said that it takes time and that was something I didn't have. I was running out excuses to avoid holding Killian. I was pacing in my bedroom waiting for the results when there was a knock on my door. "Who is it?" I asked, annoyed. I didn't want to see or speak to anyone. "It's Kendrick." I opened the door and my brother stood there with a hard face. "What? Why are you acting like this? You said you would take care of the pup, yet you haven't even held him." I glared at him, and then pulled him into my room, slamming the door shut and locking it. "Keaton, what the hell? I'm not going anywhere near that pup until I know for a fact that he's mine," I tell my brother. "Then why not get a paternity test one?" I'm supposed to get at the results today." He looked at me surprised. "Wait, when did you have time to get a test done if you haven't even gone near him?" "I sent out the test the day he was born using his umbilical cord. I got it out of the tray when no one was looking." "What do you mean by sent out? Remember my friend from Canada, Gavin?" "Yeah. His mom is a doctor and knows how to run DNA tests. She's supposed to email me the results today." "Why did you send it to an external party? Dr. Andrews would have been more than happy to run the test for you." "I don't trust the hospital here. I also don't trust anyone not to with the results." Kendrick looked as if he were about to say something when my phone pinged. I grabbed it and opened the message. I read the message and then showed it to my brother. His eyes turned black and I ran out of my room in search of my father. I knew that he was probably with Tareen in the living room. Kendrick wasn't too far behind me, and sure enough, we found with Tareen with my dad who was holding the baby. "Dad!" Kendrick called out. "Dad, give the pup back to his mother," I said, gritting my teeth. "Keaton, what is the meaning of this?" my father asked. I said, "Give him back to that asterisk." I roared, making the baby cry. "Keaton, that is no way to speak to the mother of your pup. Are you going to tell him, Tareen, or should I?" "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, taking her pup and trying to calm it down. "Tell him, or I will." "There's nothing to tell. Why are you being like this? You have no right to demand anything from me. You're the one who refuses to hold their own child. It's been 2 weeks since he's been born, and you've never once even bothered to call him by his name. He's your son." "He's not my son!" I screamed at the top of my lungs. "Keaton, what is the meaning of this?" my father exclaimed. "Dad, Melody and I told you that we had a feeling Tareen was lying about the paternity, and turns out, we were right," Kendrick said. I turned to look at him. They questioned it too, and yet he had the nerve to try and get me to bond with it. "You knew?" I shouted at him and shoving him away from me. "We didn't know for sure, but we had a feeling, or at least, Melody did. That's why she was on your side when Tareen was giving birth." "Stop it!" Tareen screamed as she put her pup down. "Kendrick, how dare you and your asterisk of a mate question my pup? You have no right." "I have every right. I'm the beta of this pack. And Keaton is my brother. You lied about being impregnated by him. You have no proof. You want proof?" I shouted. I pulled out my phone and showed it to her. She grabbed it and read it, and immediately tears formed in her eyes. But these weren't tears of hurt, these were tears of rage. "You did a paternity test behind my back." "It's a good thing I did," I spat. I saw her rummage with the phone trying to delete the results, but before she could, I grabbed the phone from her. She kept trying to reach for it, but I was a lot taller than her and kept it out of her reach. I used my free arm to shove her away from me. "Keaton, where did get the test done?" my father asked. Gavin's mom. I could see my father's anger rising. He knew Gavin's mom was a well-respected doctor, so he had no reason to question the results. "You," my father shouted at Tarine and grabbed her the throat. "Dylan, please, it's not." She stopped mid-sentence when my dad tightened his grip on her throat. "You lied to me. You tried to trap my son. Did you think you could play me for a fool?" he roared in her face and then threw her across the living room. "Dylan. Please. I love Keaton. Killian is his. Are you deaf or are you stupid?" I shouted at her. "He's not mine. He doesn't have any beta DNA in him. He's a lower-level Omega. Just like you." She stared daggers at me. "And let's not forget the fact that he has blonde hair. While my entire family has black hair, and you're a brunette. What is going on down here?" we heard a massive roar. "Alpha," we all said and bowed our heads. I saw Saren behind with him, with Melody, Jason, and Milan following. "Luna," we all bowed our heads to her as well. "Milan, find an Omega nanny to take the pup to Tarine's room," Saren said. Milan mind-linked a nanny, who came in no time at all and took Killian. Tarine was back on her feet, and her anger was radiating in waves. "Someone better explain just is going on," Jasper commanded in his Alpha. "It's nothing, Alpha, it's just a misunderstanding," Tarine said to him with the utmost confidence. "You're lying," Saren said to her. Tarine glared daggers at her, which earned her a growl from Jasper. "Did you just glare at your Luna?" Jasper shouted at her. "Jasper, Keaton has proof that Tarine has lied about the pregnancy the entire time," Kendrick said to him. "Thank the goddess for my brother. If there's one thing he could never do was lie, especially to our Alpha, who is also his childhood best friend." "Stop! You're ruining everything!" Tarine shrilled at the top of her lungs. All of the fighting and screaming was starting to draw the attention of other pack members. But Milan didn't like spectators. "Unless all of you want to end up running 20 miles for the rest of your life, get lost," she shouted at them, and all the spectators immediately dispersed. "Everyone, in my office, now!" Jasper commanded in his Alpha voice. No one could disobey Jasper, so we all went upstairs to his office. When we got there, Jasper sat at his desk with Saren to this left, with Tarine and me in the two guest chairs. My dad, brother, Jason, and Milan were standing around us. "Alpha, if I may." "Silence, Keaton," he said to me, and I lowered my head. "I'm going to ask this one, and only once, Tarine," he said to her. I could see her fidgeting with her fingers. She may have had the nerve to talk SHT to everyone when she was pregnant, but she knew talking SHT to the Alpha would get her banished or even executed. "Is the Keaton the father of your pup?" "Yes." "You're lying," Saren said, and Tarine glared at her again. "Tarine!" Jasper slammed his fist on his desk and stood his feet. "If you glare at your Luna one more time, I will not hesitate to kill you. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Alpha." "Keaton." "Sir." "Do you have proof of the paternity?" "Yes." "Show me." I pulled my phone and went to hand it to him, but Tarine snatched it out of my hand. "What are you doing?" I shouted at her. "You can't do this." "I won't let you." She kept the phone close to her. "Go ahead, delete the results." It doesn't change the fact that your pup isn't mine, and your actions only prove it, I tell her without any remorse. Besides, I made sure that my friend's mom also forwarded the results to the alpha. Her eyes widened in shock. Jasper looked at me and then immediately checked his email. No. Tarine shouted. Jasper read the file and immediately looked back at Tarine. Tarine Fields. You are hereby banned from this castle. You will live in the outskirts of the pack to the south. You and your pup are to leave immediately. I looked at him in dismay. He wasn't banishing her. Why was he letting her stay in the pack? She lied about the paternity, that's grounds for banishment. You can't do this. Milan. Get your brother and Owen in here. Jasper demanded. Milan's eyes clouded over as she mind-linked, Angelo and Owen. They showed up within a minute. Angelo. Owen. Take Tarine to her room to fetch her pup. She is banned from ever entering the castle, and she is to be detained in the far south of the territory. Yes, Alpha, they grabbed her and dragged out kicking and screaming. Just as the door was closing, she said one last thing. All of you are going pay for this. When the door closed, I looked back at Jasper. Alpha, why didn't you banish her? I asked. Yeah, Jasper, what she did is grounds for banishment, my brother said, just as confused as I was. Because there's something else I need to get to the bottom of before I can do that, he said calmly. We all looked at him, and I could see Saren biting the inside of her cheek. Saren, I said, and got her attention, and she just shook her head. Look, I'm not going to lie to anyone, but I need everyone to sit down, Jasper said. My dad took the seat next to me, and everyone else sat on the couch in Jasper's office. He let out a big sigh, and Saren put her hand on his shoulder. Jasper, what's going on? My dad asked. It's serious, and it affects everyone in this room, especially you guys, he says to me and my brother. Kendrick and I just looked at each other confused. Saren heard Tarine's thoughts when she was in labor, and Tarine admitted to something very heinous. But, even though she technically admitted it, we need proof. Admitted what? My brother asked. Jasper closed his eyes and let out another sigh. Tarine admitted to killing Lizzie. Before we could even register what he said, my dad was on his feet and holding Jasper by the collar of his shirt. What do you mean Tarine killed my Lizzie? Dad. Kendrick and I were trying to pry him off of Jasper. It's okay, leave him be, Jasper said to us. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.